series, we'll be discussing how communication is key. And now, I don't know about you ladies, but I've been married for 11 years now. And I remember back in 2012 when we were engaged, I had asked a lot of people, what is the one piece of advice that you would give me, an almost bride-to-be? And what do you think the answer was? Communication, absolutely. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And yes, absolutely, I do believe that a lot of our issues that are relationally, whether it's husbands or children or, again, that friend and that friend group that just talks a little bit too much about herself, a lot of it has to do with the ability on how effective we are when we communicate, right? But that's such an umbrella term. What does that mean? What does that look like? For each person here, communication looks differently. And so that's why we believe it's very important to talk about communication and to really have the tools in our toolbox so that we can communicate effectively the way that we want to. So I would like to draw up a scenario for you, okay? So this is gonna be sort of a mindfulness meditation. I want you to think about maybe, I'll draw up the scenario where we are, the context. We are Sunday after service, and it's the later service, and Pastor Marty just gave an amazing sermon, and you're fired up, and you're excited for Monday so you can get up and go and make disciples, and you're leaving the sanctuary, and you remember you have brunch plans with a friend, and you're so excited about the sermon, you're so excited to see this friend. You're walking towards your car, you're in the parking lot, and you notice your stomach's getting a little hungry, so you're also hungry and tired because you've been up since 8 a.m., so all these emotions are happening all at the same time, and you see your car, and then you see talkative Hannah walking towards you. And talkative Hannah, and we had to actually check the guest list to make sure there was no Hannah in the audience, because I didn't want to, embarrass anyone or, make anyone feel like I was calling them out. And there's no Hannah here from my awareness. So you see talkative Hannah, and she's walking towards you. She's got a big old smile on her face, and you're just like, I gotta go, right? How many of you ladies have been in that situation before? All right? The ones who didn't raise your hands, you're probably lying. That's okay, that's between you and the Lord. We all have been in that uncomfortable position, okay, where we just maybe don't want to associate with that person that's right in front of us, that Hannah. And so what I would like to do is really tune in to your inner dialogue, the self-talk that we have going on within ourselves. And so I want you to write this down as tool number one. This isn't actually on the slide deck, but I want you to write this down. I want you to write the word inner critic. Inner critic. We all have an inner critic that is within us, that is constantly criticizing and judging three things: ourselves, others, and our situations/circumstances. I say again, ourselves, others, and our situations/circumstances. Now, this inner critic doesn't know that he or she, mine is a she, is causing harm. But this inner dialogue is constantly happening, and we need to become very aware of what it's trying to say. Something that might be helpful is naming your inner critic. I have taken the liberty to name mine Agatha. I promise you, ladies, I'm not crazy. They wouldn't have hired me if I was. Agatha, who remembers that movie Matilda from the 90s? And the principal, her name was Agatha, right? There you go. That's why I named her that. And so Agatha will sometimes pop up if I'm in front of Hannah and I'm ready to go to brunch. I have an hour to get there. And Agatha might say, I don't have time for this right now. Man, I really wish she would speak faster. Really? Can't you find someone else to talk with? All those thoughts, that chatter. But what we do is we try to ignore it, and we just sit there and smile and nod all awkwardly, right? Anybody else do that? Yeah. Okay. So I want you ladies to become aware of negative thought processes. Become aware of those negative thought processes. Become aware of that inner critic. The next thing I want you to do is to remain rooted in love in order to radiate love. Remain rooted in love in order to radiate love. And I say that, and maybe some of you guys are looking at me thinking, what does that even mean? The reality is that we need to go to our Lord and Savior, receive his love the same way that that woman at the well was receiving the love of Jesus, so that we can go out and give that love to others. In psychology, we refer to that as replace negative thoughts with positive thoughts. Replace negative thoughts with positive thoughts. So I'll go ahead and read from John chapter 15, if you're following along in your Bible, verse 5. I am the vine, and you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. I cannot love Hannah on my own strength. I have to see her the way that the Lord sees her. And the way that we do that is first become aware of Agatha, that inner critic that's happening, that's like, oh, Hannah, I just can't stand you right now. I just can't. But you know what? I am choosing to see you through the lens of Jesus. You are a child of the Most High God, and I'm going to dedicate the next 15 minutes to you, my complete undivided attention. So you remain rooted in Jesus so that you can go ahead and see others through that same lens. And the next thing I want you to become mindful of is your presence. So let's say you dedicated 15 minutes to Hannah, and you're in that parking lot and you're ready to go. You've already hit remote start on your car, right? You're ready to go, but she's talking, and she's telling you all the things that she's excited to go do tomorrow, Monday, after the message. And you've given her 15 minutes, but you're down 10 minutes, and you're already like, okay, I want to just, how do I be aware of that? And just be there with her. Okay, sometimes people just need our time. They need our presence. The reality is even us, we've all been that woman at the well. We've all needed someone's time and attention, and we can tell when we're not fully receiving it. Ladies that are married in the room, you know when your husbands are not actually listening. And that's hurtful. We don't want to cause the same damage to someone else. We want to make sure that we are becoming aware of that negative thought process, replacing those thought processes with positive ones. How does God see this person that's in front of me? And then remain mindful during our interactions. Amen? So communication is key. The next thing on this slide deck here are some communication skills, and I just realized I didn't provide the updated one from yesterday, but that's okay. Communication skills. As I go through these 3 skills, you'll notice on your journal prompting there's a rating scale from 1 to 10. Okay, 1 being needs absolute work, 10 being you are perfect at this. I want you to go ahead and rate yourself as I go through them, okay? So interviewing and active listening. Interviewing is something that me and Bethany do very frequently when we are in our counseling sessions. We are interviewing, we're asking questions. Active listening is something that I actually had to Google the definition because it's something that I do, but I don't know how to define it. So bear with me here as I read the definition. Active listening is the practice of preparing to listen, observing what verbal and nonverbal messages are being sent, and then providing appropriate feedback for the sake of showing attentiveness to the message being presented. Active listening is listening on purpose. So I want you ladies to go ahead and rank yourselves accordingly. All right. One thing I would like to add is, let's say I'm back in the parking lot with Hannah, and she's telling me all the things she's going to do on Monday morning, and I'm going to go and I'm going to tell the cashier at Giant that Jesus loves her, and I might have the urge, the temptation to one-up her. Like, oh yeah, well last year I went to Africa and no big deal, you know. I saved all these children, and resist the urge to one-up. Okay? Resist the urge to give advice. Whew. Ladies, when we're venting to our husbands and they give us a solution, do we like it? Just listen to me. That's what I tell my husband anyway. Yeah. There's a time and a place, absolutely. Give me a solution, but first let me vent a little bit, right? Same happens with our relationships with the Hannah in the parking lot. Listen, resist the urge to give advice or to one-up. The next thing we are going to be discussing is assertiveness. Assertiveness. So I want to just remind you ladies, as we were watching that video, Jesus was using I statements. I statements. When we are speaking assertively, we are communicating with I statements. It's not, well, you shouldn't have did this, or you did this to me, or the way that you loaded the dishwasher. It's, honey, I really appreciate when you load the dishwasher this way. Communicating assertively without deflecting or placing blame. Again, I'm not shaming anyone. I do this as well, all right? And the next thing I want to encourage you ladies when you are speaking assertively is to meet people where they are. Meet people where they are. Notice when Jesus was speaking to the woman at the well, he didn't start off with, if you only knew the water that I had to give you. Or, the water that I have, you'll never grow thirsty again. No, he took a step back, he paused, he observed what was happening in front of him. This poor woman walking in the middle of the day realized she was drawing water. Let me meet her exactly where she is. Let me ask for a drink. And then once I build that rapport, establish that rapport, then I can go ahead in for the kill, right? Establish that rapport. So big. Meet people where they are, absolutely. So I want to talk about this scripture here, 1 Corinthians 9, one of my favorite scripture verses. And it's Paul's use of his freedom. And I'll read it to you. It says, though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. To the Jews, I became like a Jew to win the Jews. To those under the law, I became like one under the law. To those not having the law, I became like one not having the law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak I became weak, to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessing. To the weak I become weak. Yeah. So for talkative Hannah who's in the parking lot who just wants to talk, meet her where she's at. Just listen. Read the room. My mom used to tell me, read the room. Anybody else's mom used to say that? Yeah. All right, so we're going to go ahead and assess how effective we are at communicating assertively. But before we do that, I have to define the 4 types of communication, and maybe you have already heard of these before. It says aggressive, assertive, passive-aggressive, and passive. And I know usually we read from left to right, top to bottom, but we're going to be all over the place. So hopefully you can just, bear with me, and I'll have Bethany come and help me in just a little bit. We're going to model that for you. Each one of these types of communication we'll go ahead and model for you. So the first one is passive. All right. So passive communication is not expressing feelings or needs, ignoring your own personal rights and allowing others to do so, deferring to others for decision making in order to avoid tension or conflict.
Tatiana, are you using that clicker right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no rush. But maybe I could borrow it when you're done. When you're fully done, no rush at all. But
Okay. Yeah, sure, no problem.
oh,
All right.
thank you.
Passive.
All right. Now we'll do aggressive communication. Aggressive communication is a style in which individuals express their feelings and opinions and advocate for their needs in a way that violates the rights of others. Thus, aggressive communicators are verbally and physically abusive.
Bethany, can I see that mic, please?
I guess.
You guys like our acting skills?
This is why we went into counseling, not acting. All right. You want to do the next one?
Passive aggressive is which one are we at? Oh, the red one here. Passive aggressive. It's a combination of both passive and aggressive. Passive aggressive behavior is a pattern of indirectly expressing negative feelings instead of openly addressing them.
No offense, but you're kind of hogging the mic right now. No offense, though. No offense.
Okay.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
Okay. All right, and the last one here is the one that we want to be assertive communication.
All right, so assertive communication is expressing your point of view in a way that is clear and direct. While still respecting others, communicating in an assertive manner can help you to minimize conflict.
So I'm noticing I'm actually in need of a mic. Bethany, can I borrow yours, please?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome, thank you. Give her a round of applause, eh? She did great. And the Oscar goes to. All right. So was that helpful, that visual there for you ladies? Okay. All right, so show of hands if you feel comfortable. Who here is passive communicator? Who here communicates passively, okay? All right, awesome. Put your hands down, please. Who here communicates aggressively? Okay, all right. All right. Awesome. And show of hands, passive aggressive. All right. Okay, we have a few people. Who here is just like, I'm on the ball, I'm always communicating assertively? All right. All right, sounds good. And listen, I want you, as you are assessing yourselves on your journal, really keep in mind, does it change based off of who I am speaking with? Yeah. And the goal, ladies, is that we all begin to communicate assertively everywhere with all people. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. Another tool that I want you to go ahead and write down at this time is the 7-38-55 rule. 7-38-55 rule. And I'll break that down shortly. 7 for words, 38% tone, 55% body language and facial expressions. I'll say that again, 7% for words, 38% tone, 55% facial expressions and body language. You are always communicating something. If you guys realize when me and Bethany were doing those very awkward role plays here, body language said a lot. Tone says a lot. Words is only 7% of what you're actually communicating. That's why text messages and emails, not effective. Pick up the phone. Next best approach is picking up the phone. Best approach is face-to-face. Okay? So really keep that in mind as you are loving others well and communicating with them effectively. Okay? All right, so we are on the last skill under communication, the umbrella term of communication, and it is empathy and compassion. Empathy and compassion. That's having genuine care with concrete help for others. Genuine care and concrete help for others. So, as you know, when Jesus was speaking to the Samaritan woman, 2 reasons why he shouldn't have been speaking to her in the first place. 1, she was a Samaritan. 2, she was a woman. That did not happen back in those days. He was speaking to someone who was beneath him, quote unquote, in order to end her suffering. Go and sin no more. You're out here sleeping with 5 men? Don't do that anymore. And she stopped. That is the same approach that we need to begin to have when we are having our interactions with other people. But see, what happens is that we're always in a hurry. I'm just trying to get to brunch. My friend is waiting for me. I'm going to encourage you ladies to slow down. Take the time. Dedicate that time to poor Hannah that's in front of you. To be able to give empathy and compassion, because yes, she's probably right in front of you, excited about all the things she's going to do starting tomorrow at Giant. But then as you continue to talk to her and have this interaction, she might say, well, you know, I've been really struggling. I've been really sad because my mom has been struggling with a terminal illness for the past 6 months, and I just really need prayer. And right now, my coping skill is coming to church and being on fire for the Lord. But see, if you don't slow down, you won't be able to hear that. And the reality is everyone needs empathy and compassion. Tool number 3. So I accidentally forgot to send the updated the slide deck, so I apologize. We will be discussing 4 building blocks to compassion. So I want you ladies to write this down, okay? 4 building blocks to compassion. Number 1 is pity. Pity. Pity is an acknowledgement of someone's suffering. I remember in elementary school when I was young, there was this incidents of bullying that I was getting bullied. I'm not here, I don't want any sympathy from you ladies or pity or anything, but I worked through it, so I'm okay now. But I remember going home and talking to my mom about it and being very distraught over it. And, she used to say to me, Iha, daughter, it's okay. Just have pity for them. Feel sorry for them. And I think at the time that was helpful. But now looking back, I guess yes. Probably it does. It's an acknowledgement knowing that these kids were bullying me at that time for whatever the reason was, because they were suffering themselves, maybe things going on at home, things going on at school. And so that suffering was just oozing out of them. That's usually the reason why people bully, is it not? So pity. Pity is an acknowledgement of someone's suffering. Building block number 2 that I want you ladies to write down is sympathy. Sympathy. This is defined as caring about someone's suffering. Caring about someone's suffering. Anybody ever sent a sympathy card? Yeah. The next building block is empathy. This is feeling someone's suffering. Sometimes if we are talking to our husbands about something, we want them to feel what we're feeling, right? We want them to be able to have the courage and the boldness to be able to hold space for us and really give us permission to feel all the things and that they can relate to that pain. Yeah. We have to do that for Hannah too. And then the last building block here is compassion. Compassion is a desire to relieve someone's suffering. According to Psychology Today, compassion is an empathetic understanding of a person's feelings, accompanied by altruism or a desire to act on that person's behalf. So you give empathy, but you also desire to give practical help. And that may look different depending on the scenario, ladies. There have been times, and maybe some of you ladies can relate, if you're driving. Nowadays there's just a lot of people who are, asking for money at the lights and all those things. And you can acknowledge that they're suffering. You take pity. You kind of just look. Maybe you might have some sympathy. Maybe you care about their situation, their circumstance. Then on to the third building block here, empathy. Maybe you might feel some of that pain as well because you grew up in poverty and so you know what that looks like. Or maybe you've grown up not having something that's a necessity. And maybe when you demonstrate compassion, sometimes you might say, hey, here's $1, and other times you might just give a prayer in your car seat. Compassion looks differently with different situations. There's no right or wrong way to do it, okay? So I want you to go ahead and assess yourself on your ability to demonstrate empathy and compassion. All right? But before we do that, if you're looking at the board here, like I mentioned to you, this is a great visual of how they're building blocks that they lead to compassion. And can you guys read the examples underneath them? No? Okay. Yeah, I can't read mine either, so I'm just going to go like this. All right, so for pity, it says, I feel sorry for you. And the example that's provided is, I post the news story about your accident on my Facebook account. You're taking pity for someone. The next building block here is sympathy. I care about your suffering. So the example that's provided is, I send you a sympathy card. Okay? All right, so the higher the building block, the greater the support, the greater the effort. The third is empathy. I try to understand your suffering, where maybe you can say, yeah, I understand why you are devastated, and let you know that I'm here. I'm here for you. And then the last one is, I relieve your suffering. The example is, I reach out to you and offer concrete help. I think a lot of times what we do, and especially probably where we live, because everything is so go, go, go all the time, we don't know how to shut down and relax and just recharge, is that we experience compassion fatigue, where we're constantly giving and giving, especially us moms. It's just never ends. The needs are so much, and you're giving, and you're just like, I don't have any capacity anymore to give. So for my friend that I've been friends with for 20 years, and I love her dearly, who just lost her mom, I'm just going to go ahead and write her a card. Offer some sympathy. Great intentions, absolutely, but my encouragement to you ladies is that we would begin to widen our capacity for others. Widen our capacity for others so that we can demonstrate Christ's compassion in Christ's empathy. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and rank yourselves on how good you are at demonstrating those things. All right. We had a video. I don't think we have time for that, so I'm just going to skip that. And we're going to go to practice time. All right, so just as a summary, communication, 3 tools underneath that are what? Number 1? There you go. One person was listening. Interviewing and active listening. Second, assertiveness, absolutely, yes. And lastly, outstanding. All right, so we have some examples on the board, and I apologize for our font size here. I recognize that it's kind of hard to see, but I'll just read them out to you. We have examples for all of them. So you're going to, like I mentioned, you're going to get into some pairs here with the person that's next to you, and hopefully everybody has an even number at their table, but if not, we can make something work, okay? We're going to practice this. So I want person A to be the interviewer, the listener. You're going to be me in the parking lot, talking to Hannah. Person B will be the Hannah, will be the talker, okay? So examples of interviewing. How was your day? How is this course going? Tell me more about blank. That's so interesting. I wonder why, how this happened, blank. Okay, those are some of the tools, the promptings that you can be able to give Hannah here, that's your neighbor. And we're going to practice assertiveness, I statements, and lastly, empathy and compassion. And examples of those would be, your morning sounded exhausting. Is there anything I can do to help? I'm sorry this course is not what you expected. Can I pray with you? Sounds like you are enjoying your time and learning lots of new things. I'm so glad to rejoice with you. All right, so again, those are some examples. You don't have to stick to the script. Give yourselves permission. It's going to be awkward and clunky, okay? That's all right. We're practicing these skills. And so we'll give person A 5 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and switch roles. Does that sound fair? Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. It's a good question. Yeah. You communicate assertively with I statements. I really have enjoyed our time talking today. I actually have somewhere to be right now. Can we talk next week? Yeah. I know it's so hard. Man, I have a few Hannahs of my own. Just kidding. All right, any other questions? That was a very good question, so I appreciate that. All right, good. So me and Bethany will be walking around if you have any questions, and let's practice. 5 minutes, and then we'll switch.
All right, how was that role play for you ladies? Did anyone find it difficult to role play, or was it pretty easy? A mix of both. All right, we like doing the role plays because, for one, in counseling, that's a good technique that we use a lot with clients, either in this session or we have them maybe role play things at home. And so I always find it really helpful to actually practice what we're doing. I'm a very hands-on person. You can tell me it all you want, but until I do it for myself, it's a lot more difficult for me. So that's why we're going to do role playing, and we'll do that every week. And we're going to do it again in a little bit about conflict resolution. So if you really enjoyed that, then you have something to look forward to. If you didn't, then you also have something to look forward to. All right, so with communication, I thought Tatiana did a great job with communication, and I loved the 7:38:55. One in the 55 with being nonverbal and body language, one thing that I was told when I was in college, I'm from New England. Is anyone here from New England? No? All right. Does anyone know someone from New England? All right. So New England is a very unique place. I don't know how to describe it in terms of people who aren't from New England, but basically New Englanders are very they just say what's on their mind. If they don't like you, they'll tell you and they'll show you verbally, and they don't have a lot of the passive-aggressive things that I observed more when I went to college down south. And so I went to college in Florida, and New England girl going to Florida, and one of my professors said to me once, I can never tell if you are mad or if you're happy because you always have the same expression on your face. And I was like, that's very odd coming from New England, because usually in New England, everyone knows what I'm thinking because everyone just says it. And so one of the things with the nonverbal that Tatiana was talking about that I've learned and had to work through over the years, especially as a counselor, is being aware of what my nonverbal is. I just assume that everyone knows what I'm thinking and feeling because that's how it is back home. We just show it and we say it. And so that's one of the areas of communication that I think often is maybe not talked about as much, or we're not as aware of, is that nonverbal. So I really liked the 7:38:55. I haven't heard that one before. All right, so moving on to conflict resolution skills. So we're going to go through each of these skills, and then, of course, you're going to get to rate yourself and assess yourself afterwards. So as I'm going through these, kind of think about where you're at with all of these. So the first one is facilitation. So this is where you go and you initiate the conflict when there's conflict. You don't stand and wait for the other person to come and talk to you. You go and you initiate with that person. You go and talk to them. In Matthew, it says, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. And I think the between him and him alone is a key, because if you're going to somebody and you're saying, I'm going to do facilitation, and they're with their whole group of friends, and that's when you decide to facilitate with them, well, that's probably not going to be as effective, because they're going to either get defensive or be embarrassed. So making sure to go and talk to them alone, and then if that doesn't go good, you can always bring in a third person or a mediator. But that initial facilitation where you are the one to initiate. The next one is mediation. So this is seeing the good of yourself and of others. I know sometimes that can be a challenging thing to do when you're in a conflict and you're trying to think of the good in the other person. Say the person wronged you. They did something that you are hurt by, that you never expected, and now you have to go and try to see the good in them. That's hard. That's hard. So here in Philippians, it says, let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others, seeking the good of self and others and staying impartial. The next one is creative problem solving. So this is making sure that your intention is to fix the problem, not just to go off on the person and tell the person all of how you're feeling and then wanting no solution to fix the problem. So this is being mindful that, yes, you're expressing how it caused you to feel, how the situation made you feel, how the conflict is affecting you, and then your intention is to fix the problem, not just vent, word vomit, and then walk away and not try to fix the problem. So in Proverbs, it says, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. And then we have, the last one is accountability. And this is being humble enough to know that you can do something different going forward. So humility and knowing, okay, this is how the situation played out. This is what happened. And next time I can do it differently. Next time, if this is how I handled it this time, how can I handle it different another time? And taking responsibility for your part in the conflict. And in Romans it says, so then each of us give an account of himself to God. And at the end of the day, God is going to hold all of us accountable. So if we start now, then it might be less of a shock when we're facing our Savior and he's holding us accountable for all of our actions. So I want you to look at your journal for a minute and rate yourself on your conflict resolution skills. All right, and as you're doing that, I'm going to just give some examples before we start our role play. For facilitation, a way that you could go about saying this is, I'm noticing that you're seeming bothered about something. Am I getting that right? You seem distracted. Do you want to share with me what's going on? Another example might be, I really want to open up about something that's bothering me. Do you mind if we discuss it? So those are examples of facilitation. Mediation, I'm so sorry. See this starting with an I statement. I'm so sorry that my actions contributed to blank. I got caught up in the moment or got so excited I didn't even consider how my actions impacted you. Another example of mediation is, I can see why or how you blank. I appreciate you listening to me. Creative problem solving. I'm wondering what could help to mend this. I'm wondering, I love that phrase. I use that a lot in my counseling sessions. I'm wondering is a great way to get somebody to feel like they can open up and to feel comfortable. And then, is this still on? Hello? Can you hear me? No? All right. All right. Is this one working? No. All right. All right. All right. I guess I'll talk loud. All right. And then accountability. Can you all hear me? All right. Accountability. I hear where you're coming from. Going forward, I will ensure that the blank happens. So we're going to role play this. Each of you are going to get to... Yeah, this is the other updated slide that didn't get sent. But on the back of your paper, it has different scenarios that you can practice. So you're going to practice in partners. You can each pick a scenario, try to go through a couple of them, and then the person A will be the hurt person who's advocating for themselves, and person B is the offender or the person that hurt them. So we're going to start, pick person A, person B, pick a scenario, 5 minutes, and then we'll switch. All right? Any questions? Yes. Oh, yes, of course. If you need to go to the bathroom, that's fine. Of course. All right. Yeah. All right, so go ahead and get started. You have 5 minutes, and then we'll switch. All right. That exercise for everyone. Was that easier or harder than the communication role play? Harder? Yeah. It was easier? All right. Does anyone want to share maybe what some of their experience was like in this role play or the other role play? Absolutely. And that's why being present and really the active listening is the communication and conflict resolution go hand in hand, because when you're actively listening, you're present in that moment instead of just thinking, what am I going to say next? Which I catch myself doing a lot with my husband. He's talking. I'm not listening to anything he's saying. I'm getting my speech prepared for what I'm going to say next, right? So being actively listening and in that moment instead of thinking, okay, well, I'm going to respond this way, thinking about what they're actually saying and responding to what they're actually saying instead of responding to what they said 5 minutes ago that you're still festering about and still angry about. But yeah, that is a great point.